Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London. Now, it's not often that we review novels, and this one is actually not a legal novel in that sense at all. But it's a book that came to me and I read it and I thought it was really rather interesting. It's called Tisala and it's been written by Richard Seward Newton. It comes to us from Blue Mark Books. Now, I've discussed this book with my wife Elizabeth, and for our title, for the actual review, I came up with this particular wording: a refreshing writing style with a curious tale for the emerging fiction markets of the 2020s. And I think it is very much a book for the future. Let's just have a quick look at it. There's the whale on the front, there's the spine, then there's the back. It's a heavy book, so it's a hardback. It runs to something approaching nearly 600 pages. There's some nice comments on the inside back dust cover, and also some history on the front about what's actually in the book, and I'll repeat a little bit of that in the review. There's the front page there. Then there's a nice dedication to Sally, there we go, and then there are some quotes from various learned gentlemen over the centuries. And then you've got a content section there running all the way through. 72 chapters in total. Some of the chapters quite small, but it's well worth reading, as I say, and it's worth reading the prologue because it sets the scene quite nicely, just in case you may be coming to this with a slightly different view. And David Somerset, who will be known to some of you, is the person who has actually written the prologue. And then it starts off with my Aunt Jane. Now, I'm not going to give a lot away because I think these books are books that you should read, especially if they're fiction books, because you don't want me to give you the game away, but I'm going to give you a flavour of what is in the book. This is what I say. Many, many years ago, one of the first serious books I read for teenagers at that time, that was in the 1950s and 60s, was called The Rain Islands by James Wood, and an imaginary area of the Faroe Islands, right in the extreme far north, which has intrigued me because I've been to that part of the world, which I've always found very fascinating. I didn't expect in my travels, of course, to visit such places, but I did, and I found the Scottish and the Northern Islands, the Rain Islands, enchanting, and they always will have a particular place in my heart. Probably because of the appalling weather most of the time when I was there, either flying or actually staying on some of the islands. Now, so it was that when I came to read Tisala, which is a tale set in 1960 in this region, it was a pleasure to revisit these wild and lonely places, certainly in my mind. Now, I'm not going to spoil the story, as I've said before, because you should read it for yourselves, but here's just a taste of what's in it, taken from the blurb. The storyline involves David, who's a young London biologist who is researching the Scottish Islands, and he encounters a blue whale called Tisala. Believe me, to see a blue whale is in itself a profoundly striking experience, and the story will captivate you. I've seen them, and they're absolutely magnificent specimens, absolutely fine. Now, David becomes convinced that the whale is trying to communicate. Bits of Star Trek coming in here, I think, already. So with the assistance of an acoustic engineer, a breakthrough is made, and to use the cliche, two worlds meet. Now, what a warning here, you need to have a reasonably vivid imagination for all this, but it's worth it in the end, believe me. Also, this is where the strength of imagination one needs comes in, as the reader goes with the beauty of the islands, which I've said are absolutely something you have to see to believe. And they can and do offer anyone who's visited the area a picture of events which begin to come strongly into play. Tisala wants David to help save the few remaining blue whales from being hunted to extinction, which is in fact a well-worn storyline, but very persuasive here. I'm glad he's written it, and I'm glad it's being said again, because there are people out there who just don't listen. Now, Richard Seward Newton sets out his major cause with a backcloth of the history of whaling, which is a smelly, barbaric and disgusting trade, that's my view. And Tisala depicts the cruel slaughter of the greatest mammals on the earth. Another chance to remind people why it's all so wrong. Again, rather to order, we have the struggle to stop the slaughter when the existence of a higher intelligence emerges. Well, I have to say that hasn't stopped people in the past, men and women doing terrible things to each other. So why change the habits of a lifetime? Well, this book might make people think, perhaps. Now, Tisala is rightly described as a story of love, passion and friendship in which the lives of Tisala and David are bound up with the problems of the modern world. And historically, Tisala's 20th century tale comes to understand that mankind threatens its own future as well as much of our life on and in our planet. So it's an intriguing read for the really green supporter, not just the activists. That's why I think it's got a sort of general purpose readership in mind. The other link, which unsurprisingly is present in this thoughtful novel, both philosophical and yet satirical, has Newton, through Tisala, turning his creative attention to the great issues facing humanity, from war, religion and population to education, economics and ethics. Pretty wide remit, one would think. But of course you've got to have a little bit of extra poetic license. And I don't to think the author has done anything other than his very best here, and I'm grateful to him. We are told that Newton's aim is to seek to distill the knowledge and wisdom that might lead to a happier world, with the novel being an astonishing voyage of exploration in understanding the world in which we live, and it's also a surprisingly good read, very easy to read, and actually very sort of entertaining and keeping your attention throughout. It's also, I think, rightly described as a profound, sad, hope-filled epic story about the greatest living creature we have left at the moment, so do read it. And before it's too late, because it's quite possible the time will come soon when there are no more of these magnificent mammals left, and all we will have then are just the stories themselves and the memories of them and our lovely far northern islands. Now, as I said, it's a lovely little book, this one. There we go. Let's have another quick look at it. There you are. There's the spine, and then there's the back. As I said, it's a heavy book. Good read for the summer. There we go. Right in the middle, bit of whaling news there. I can remember the 1960s and 70s and how strong the passions were even then about this barbaric whaling practice. So I think even in 2016, it's worth repeating. Thank you to Blue Mark and to Richard Stewart Newton very much indeed for a lively read and an important read. Do have a good look at it. Hopefully you'll see our review in the journals and on the web. Thank you to all concerned anyway. Bye bye.